So, Eddie, president of Inter Detroit, I know you from the outdoor game, but you're debuting in the National Futsal Premier League tomorrow. And so, yeah, we were just talking about the positional rundown you kind of sent us. So that's when I knew I was in trouble and I needed your help prepare for the game tomorrow. Kind of run us down through the different positions that we're going to see in futsal game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if some real futsal experts and professionals are listening, they might get upset and think I'm butchering it. But really, to simplify it, it comes down to it's five aside, right? So you got your goalie, which is a goalie in any sport you play, and then your your fixo is ideally a six and an eight. Somebody that is good on the ball, somebody that can possess, that can move around. Sometimes it's a center back. Your alas are your two wingers and 11s, craftier guys, cut in and shoot kind of guys, and then your pivot is going to be your nine, big body, usually either a real nine or a center back, and hold the ball, be physical at point of attack, those kind of things. And futsal is just a lot of constant movement, so you need guys that are going to not only be good on the ball but get into space and keep moving and constantly thinking while they're out there.
I think my first thought here, Eddie, is because we spend so much time in the outdoor game talking about tactics, talking about managers and the way they play and how they use their players and all these things. How important are tactics in futsal when it's obviously a much smaller space? The ball is mostly staying on the deck, right? And you've only got five players on the surface.
Yeah, I think for us, like for our 11s, obviously tactical is Coach Ryan Rowe for the men's side, big on tactics. Just kind of that's what he looks for in certain players to fit his scheme. But futsal for us is really, you know, how good are you on the ball and how quick can you think while you're out there with pressure on your back. So tactics do come into play when we're doing like a set piece or a corner kick. But honestly, we just look for a good group of four or five guys together on the field that can really move the ball, can press, have a good shot. Because you don't have to be, for us, our best futsal guys aren't our best 11 players, if that makes sense. So it doesn't always transition the same. But if you're a good futsal player, you have the qualities to be, a good 11 player and vice versa. So I wouldn't say tactics is like our number one thing that we go over, but we just have a lot of guys that understand how it's supposed to be played and how other teams play it as well. So it's just understanding the transitional game and the moments that come in the game, understanding what to do then.
Uh, Enter Detroit, known in the area for 11s in the outdoor game, as we discussed. What as a club president, what made you decide or make the move into to entering one of your teams into a futsal league? What was the inspiration? What benefit do you feel that the club will have from doing a futsal season?
Yeah, I guess a special shout out to a handful of guys that really were pushing for us to kind of make this jump. AJ Santavi and Christian Sipley, who run Soccer IQ out in Grand Blanc, and Hector Fernandez out in Grand Rapids with Midwest United, who runs their futsal academies. I think the biggest thing was it's always been around, right? Some people still don't know what it is, but it's been around just as long as 11s, maybe just not in the US. But in Grand Rapids, I would say futsal is more prominent than 11s. They have really good futsal teams. 11s historically maybe not, the best, but futsal they have the best players in Grand Rapids for sure. But I think those guys really push to kind of create our pipeline for us for the men's. And since we don't have a youth academy, for soccer, as you should say, this was a perfect opportunity for us to get those kids involved early, not just destroy the relationship that they have with their youth club, but still get them ready for the men's side for us. So that way, we're kind of middle ground. We don't have an affiliation to Jags or Varda or Wolves, right? We can kind of bring guys on from wherever if it fits their schedule. Cool, and those teams are okay with it. They don't have an issue because we don't have interest in like a youth soccer academy, but we do have interest in the futsal side because that's how we kind of pick the best of the best that we choose or that come to us and get them ready for our men's side and hopefully develop them that way. So it was really just to develop players, get them in earlier, and give them, a different opportunity from their current club.
Edwin, how? So I guess one of those things, like having covered American soccer for a long time, but always been having been focused on the pro game and being old enough that there really wasn't this futsal presence in this country when I was growing up. How much of your involvement in Inter Detroit putting a team in this is about like futsal? Because I mean, futsal is pickup. So I mean, you can play pickup soccer, and it's futsal. You're not, there's not a lot of places we're going and you're playing indoor soccer in places like Michigan when it's cold outside, but you can play futsal pretty much on any basketball court. So how much of this is like the culture kind of bubbling up around futsal in this country? Because lots of organizations are now investing in these courts and things like that to give communities opportunities to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes at low cost really to start with because we know, the pyramid that is American soccer and youth soccer and the monopoly that these facilities charge, especially during the winter, right? They make their killing over the winter. So I think futsal is a really good opportunity for kids that maybe aren't playing club or men's that are trying to stay busy over the winter for their summer programs to stay busy, still stay around the game, work on different things and really just work on their touch. So I think as futsal is growing, you're going to see more teams add a futsal team, whether it's in a youth tournament or a youth league or even a men's league. You're going to see more come around because, I mean, it's not like I wouldn't say it's super cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than, going playing out in Wixom, for 2 hours a night. It's a lot cheaper to play on a basketball court a few nights a week, and keeping guys together, keeping guys busy. So I think teams are going to definitely see an approach of how can we keep our guys busy in the off season without biting into your summer budget, So I think it's just as it's growing, teams are going to add more teams into those realms, but kind of as a keeping guys together and cutting down on costs.
I've got a soft spot for futsal myself because I think it feeds into the cost and the space available. Because when I moved back to Detroit from Chicago, there wasn't a huge amount of places to play. And so when I started my pickup night, it started as a futsal night in a kids like gymnasium, and we played that, and it was a great introduction coming back to playing regularly as an adult. Enhanced the foot skills a great deal more. It forces you to play with the ball at your feet like a million times fold. It's not bouncing around, and people aren't really doing long balls. It's all about the movement of your feet. Tomorrow, when I'm calling the game, what are some of the things that I should look out for specifically, and kind of in general? Maybe I'll adjust that question. My apologies. I was going down a blind alley a little bit, being specific on tomorrow. In general, futsal, you were saying teams are being added, and you're playing in the National Futsal Premier League. Is that a growing league? Is that is the participation in futsal growing in general? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean the NFPL, I think historically has always been one of the bigger ones here in Michigan. This year is not like the most populated teams wise. But you know how leagues go here in the US. One team this year, maybe next year they'll be in another one. It's kind of one of those deals this year. But be showing interest in the futsal side. And it just takes one. Not saying that, we're gonna be the ones that are gonna help transition a lot of teams, but realistically, most of these futsal teams are just futsal teams. So it's gonna take a couple 11th teams to join a futsal organized league to kind of snowball and keep growing it here in Michigan at least. So, I like to think we're doing our part, but it's definitely going to keep growing.
I guess one thing that's I think hard for me is because I'm an 11 guy, an outdoor guy, because I care about the growth of the league, the national top division men's professional outdoor league mostly, and the national team, and obviously American players and stuff like that. And when you kind of get into this place of seeing everything that's not that version of the game serving 11s, right? So is that the viewpoint? I mean, is that the right way to look at it, or do you think that there's a place where futsal on its own is the end game for players, and maybe one day Mark Cuban gets a league off the ground and we get a futsal competition in America that players can aspire to play in?
Yeah, I do think it's the end goal for some guys, right? Because we always have these conversations every year with our team in 11s, like, hey, the reality is not everybody's going to go pro, right? there are 40 guys. They all majority want to go professional, but probably not going to happen for most. But the more avenues that you explore, right? If it's futsal, if it's indoor, you're giving yourself a higher chance to go professional in some aspect of the sport, right? So I think it will grow considering that they have those professional avenues, those professional opportunities, and guys are going to seek like, okay, I'm not going to go pro at 11s, but maybe I can go pro in futsal, or maybe I can go pro indoor. So I think it's definitely going to be, it's going to take one person to just blow it all up, and it's going to be the next hottest thing in America at some point, right? But I think as of now, it's slowly gaining, a little bit of steam towards the top. And it's not to discredit anything 11s. I mean, we're mainly 11s club, right? That's our bread and butter. That's our main focus. But I do see the value in having a futsal team and youth futsal teams because it's a no-brainer. It's like, why would you not? It's just additional teams, more for the marketing, more for the organization, grows the fan base. It's a no-brainer for us.
Well, Eddie, thank you so much for kind of shedding light on futsal, Inter Detroit, your club, and giving me a little bit of an education on what I'll be looking at tomorrow. As we head out, let the viewers know how they can look into Inter Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow us on any platform at Inter Detroit. We're growing the YouTube channel this year, hopefully. We're on TikTok also, pretty slow on there. We don't spend too much time on there, but definitely tomorrow's free admission, so anyone in the Canton area, I know Saturday's gonna be busy with the Lions game and all that stuff tomorrow, but whoever's in the area, it's free admission tomorrow, so I would say take advantage of it, and it should be a good game. IFA's a really good team, established futsal club with Ducker, so should be a good start to the season regardless of the result.
All right, Eddie, thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kick Around. I will see you